Five, four, three, two, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Welcome in. Welcome all, folks. I'm going to try to get this up and running here in just a second. Man, we're going to have a short-ish episode tonight because, man, not a lot of words for what we saw this afternoon. And I honestly, wholeheartedly hope, if you are a Carolina Panthers fan, that you did not sit there and endure that entire game. Like, unless you just wanted to punish yourself, there was absolutely no reason to not go out and find something else to do. I'm just telling you. I hope you spent your time doing better things than watching the disaster that we saw. We're going to get into the breakdown, as we always do, and analyze everything here live on Sunday night. If you guys are not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please be sure to head over to YouTube and subscribe there. Or if you're listening to this after the fact on all our podcast platforms, which I much appreciate everyone tuning in, just make sure that you are following the show. Kind of a mellow episode, kind of a letdown in a way for me, and maybe my expectations were just a little bit too high for the Carolina Panthers coming into this game. I mean, I don't know that I was expecting them to come out and dominate. I expected them to be a little more competitive, all things considered, and I don't think I anticipated Andy Dalton looking nearly as bad as he did. And my gosh, I know he's the backup quarterback. I know he's going to be here for another year. But if I am Dave Canales, if I am Dan Morgan, you got to find something else, in my opinion, to back up Bryce Young. So I think we learned a few things today. Number one, Buffalo's a good football team. So I will gladly eat that one as someone that, it's part of what we do. We try to find the ways to get fans excited, to give us a little glimpse of what could be positivity. So you sit back and you say, well, the Buffalo Bills haven't beaten anyone. Week 1 against the Ravens, yeah, that was a good game. Then you start stacking up. They're on the Saints, the Jets, the Dolphins, and you say, well, they've beaten really bad football teams in the same manner that the Carolina Panthers have, but the Buffalo Bills showed up. They performed well. I'll give them credit. Coming off of the bye, they were well prepared, and you even saw on the interception from Andy Dalton when Shaq Thompson actually called out what was coming, the team was prepared. That's how you should be. Coming out of a bye, they were undefeated under Sean McDermott. Josh Allen has never lost 3 games in a row. All those things still stay true to them. So hats off to the team on that side of the ball up in New York that figured it out. Played one heck of a football game, kind of beat us at our own sauce, and really shut down this team. Offensive line from our side, my gosh, it is a mash unit. People are banged up. Brady Christensen has an Achilles injury. He's going to be out for the year. Cade Mays comes out at one point. Austin Corbett in the rotation. Taylor Moton coming out. Yash Nijman going in. I mean, you had gotten down to the bare bones. I was reading the Panthers.com article, but you really did get into the bare bones of this offensive line. So I don't know. When you bottle all of these things up. If this game happened without this 3-game win streak, yeah, I would be very concerned. I know there were some really good questions coming into this week, talking through with Dave Canales, asking folks if this is a measuring stick, and they're never going to admit it. They're like, oh, week to week, this is how we view things. We view this as an opportunity. Every game's an opportunity. This was a measuring stick. Now, maybe Buffalo is about to catapult back into being one of the better teams, and this little slump, this 2-game skid that they went through, maybe that was a little bit of a blip, and they're going to put together a run. And I got to tell you, if they play like they did today, they'll compete with a lot of people. Very efficient running the football. What's most frustrating as a Panthers fan is felt like maybe we had gotten over the hump. It's not like the Carolina Panthers did not go against some really good rushers the past few weeks. Like, they were going up backs that were in around the top 15 in rushing. So for me, it was like, okay, coming into this, I said, well, Carolina Panthers have a chance to contain, because they contain Breece Hall, contain Javonte Williams. So you bring it, they contain Bijan Robinson. Go back to Etienne for the Dolphins. Etienne looked the part in week 1, but the Panthers have gone up with 5 or 6 of the best backs in the NFL. And they look to be back on track over this 3-game win streak. And unfortunately, James Cook had his day and had his way. It was ridiculous to see how effective he was running the ball. The most frustrating point as a fan and someone that watches this, but from the football mind, backs are going to be successful if they are not getting contacted behind the line of scrimmage. If you cannot get a hand on them, if their first contact is not coming until a yard, 2 yards past the line of scrimmage, you're going to find a lot of success in that. Think about the momentum that you get to build up, finding the cutback lanes. I know, listening to the Panthers post-game radio show, they were talking through some of the schematics that they pulled up on the Buffalo side, the toss cracks, getting to the outside, the cutbacks, getting the defense to flow one way. James Cook being a very patient runner. And he was. Buffalo Bills, good football team. Carolina Panthers. So you try to summarize what we saw today. There's a lot to be concerned about. Like we talked just briefly there, the health of the offensive line. What exactly are we going to be getting this week? Because, man, it just feels like this team keeps dropping. They've been able to produce. But as we saw today with Andy Dalton back at the helm, a quarterback that couldn't move around, they had their way. So the thing that concerns me, and probably concerns all of Panthers Nation, was the performance by the defense. So, yes, I am concerned with the points scored. I look at the turnovers earlier that put our defense in a bad position. You look at fumble, turns into 3 points, then the interception turns into a touchdown. Those are big swings. Like, when the game was close, and I tweeted it very early on. Also, if you guys are still following Two Shows, One Host, you have to follow Two Growls, One Roar. That's where all the live game Carolina Panthers content is. 100% Panthers tweets and posts, all for you guys. So you've got to go over there. But I looked at that as a swing because, at a minimum, so I will say this too, very critical of Andy Dalton. That was not the level of play of an NFL quarterback, of someone that's played the game. Worse than even what we've seen out of Bryce Young at times over the past 2.5 years. That first fumble, difficult play. I mean, anyone who doesn't see someone coming behind them, the ball's not there. I mean, these guys are taught to rip. Like, they would have easily done the same thing to Bryce Young. Maybe Bryce Young has a little more awareness and he gets down, possibly. But I think the time Andy thought that he could get what he could get. Just wasn't a good decision, but you leave points there. It's just in different phases. Then we even go down later. I know everyone's going to be talking about this. It doesn't matter at the end of the day as far as where the outcome of the game went. But going into the half, the opportunity, you have a veteran quarterback. They said it on the broadcast. Everyone knows you cannot take a sack. And the clock has to be turning in your mind. You can't play hero ball. At this point, you just need some points on the board. I don't know that you're going to be building up any type of momentum, but get a few points on the board, right? Points up. Maybe you go into the halftime and make some adjustments. I laugh because that nobody, at least from our side, we were not going to be stopping Cook, but you never know. You stack those things, it didn't happen. And you end up having to rush out, take an emergency kick unprepared. Like it was a very bad day of football. So I also don't know when we start talking about Andy Dalton versus Bryce Young, plugging in Andy Dalton the way that we did today. Yep, it sucked. If we had to put Bryce Young back there, I personally don't know how much the outcome changes. Maybe a few less turnovers, maybe a few more scores, maybe a few more connections, because we saw some missed opportunities out there. We know that Bryce Young's a little more, not a little more, he's more mobile than Andy Dalton is. He can get out of the pocket, he can move with his feet. But our inability to be able to stop James Cook was really the difference in the game. So that's where things sit. Now, the Carolina Panthers, and we're going to get into, of course, like we always do, the stat line, going to have an opportunity, hopeful that we get Bryce Young back next week. Going to see how that goes. Panthers absolutely are going to need him as I sit here and watch Pittsburgh going up 16-7 now, late in the second quarter. Game's at Pittsburgh, but looking ahead to next week, big opportunity. Carolina Panthers back now at 500. We talked about, we've broken down the Carolina Panthers schedule. We knew on paper before we got into the back half of the season that these two games, we circled them. Even before we knew how these teams are going to look, when the schedule was released, those were the two games that you circle in back-to-back weeks, and you say, okay, you got Buffalo at home, you're traveling up to Green Bay. We're going to find out what kind of football team we have. Well, today I don't know what we found out. A lot of regression, not ready to hit the panic button on Dave Canales or any of this, like just not there. I think it was just a perfect day for Buffalo to come out and do exactly what they did today. But next week's a big game. Of course, getting a win, we're flirting here now with just staying on the line of trying to get into the playoffs. I hope that continues to be the case, that the Panthers are still making a push. Even right now, so things kind of leveled out so far. Number one, Falcons lost again. So you have that there. But things are semi-leveling out in the bottom of the pack within the NFC right now. And I know if Green Bay ends up losing, that'll shake some things up at the top. They're sitting there with 4-1-1. But you look at the Chicago Bears, who are right in front of the Panthers. They're sitting at 4-3. San Francisco's 5-3. The Panthers right now have the 9 seed. So they're 2 games out of the playoffs if the playoffs ended today. Out of their upcoming games, like we said, it's not going to get easier. You have Green Bay, Tampa Bay twice, Seattle Seahawks, the Rams, the 49ers. It doesn't get much easier. So if what we saw today really is who the Panthers are against good competition, then maybe we are in the realm of a team that wins 7 games, possibly 8 games, just with where things are right now. I hope that's not the case. I hope the Carolina Panthers are able to kind of figure this thing out. And maybe this was a blip, but as Dave Canales said in the post game, it's a copycat league. Teams are going to hone in on what went well for the Buffalo Bills, and they're going to want to execute that the same exact way against the Panthers. Outside of that, like just looking at the game being terrible for Carolina Panthers fans, I think one of the things that still resonates with me, it sticks out, is like Dave Canales just not. I don't know if I'm going to say it's not trusting his gut, but I know there's politics involved in decisions within the building. And I'm not talking about Tepper. I'm talking about within the team, the construct of the team. Right? You're going to make a decision of one guy over another. You're going to upset some folks, or you may make one guy in particular mad. But where we are today with the offense, the blueprint that has been there runs through Rico Dowdle. Hands down, Rico Dowdle. And I don't understand how Dave Canales can talk the talk of playing the best player, of all these conversations around bringing guys in to challenge, for him to say that he's content with rotating every other series when you are getting the type of production that you are out of Rico Dowdle. 54 yards on the day, 6.8 yards per carry. He had a one run of 24 yards. You look at Chuba Hubbard, still just trying to find something, and it's nothing. Finished with 34 yards on 12 carries. So 4 more carries, but only 34 yards, 2.8 yards per rush. Even if you were to take away the 24-yard rush by Rico, you'd be looking at 7 carries. He'd still be averaging 4.2 yards per carry compared to Chuba Hubbard's 2.8. It for all the things that Dave Canales wants to verbally talk about out in the open with his philosophy, the things that he's done, how he views this stuff, it just doesn't make sense that he does not want to sit there and start to feature Rico Dowdle. Again, Rico's here for a year. If you are finding success and it's working out, feed him as much as you can. It's not like Chuba Hubbard is going anywhere. I'm sure there's going to be some frustration if you give Rico 70% of the carries, or if you feature him 2 to 3 series in a row and then rotate in Chuba for one series. Sure, Chuba Hubbard is not going to be happy. But you know what? At this point in time, everyone in the NFL has seen what has been successful. Everyone on this team, all the fans, it's just missing something there with Chuba Hubbard at the helm. So I don't know. I think he is going to continue to be stubborn. It's the way that he's wanted to do this. I view it as being stubborn because I do understand the difficulty of making the decision, but at the same time, it's like it's almost to the point of being common sense. When you see someone that is that productive, no matter how much they're getting paid, whatever it is, if you are not going to feature them in the offense and you're the offensive play caller, I consider that a failure as a coach to not recognize the talent that you have in front of you and continue to feed it. I don't care how much you like the guy and how hard this guy works and all the time he comes in and puts on the jugs machine. At the end of the day, the guy who's producing and continues to produce at a level 2 times than what you're seeing, like if you think of this from a sales environment, it's like you getting in all these leads and saying you're going to split the leads up 50-50, but you have one sales associate that's closing like double the rate of the associate over here. And then, okay, you're still deciding, okay, well, you know what? I know you're producing at 2 times the rate with the same amount of leads. Instead of going and giving you more of them and giving you better leads and setting you up to be more successful because you're producing at such a high level, we're going to keep it the same. I don't understand it. I really don't. And it's not, again, a situation where I'm down on Chuba or I think Chuba's a bad back. The Panthers invested in him. The Panthers gave him the money. They appreciate him. He's a leader in the locker room. All those things can still be true. I continue to say, if you had the nerve and the gumption to decide to bench Bryce Young at the point that you did last year, you should have that same exact feeling with any other position on this roster. And I don't know why it is so hard to figure out how to do it at the running back position. This is a great problem to have. And so you're now also trying to alternate and getting guys back for kickoffs, which I get it. It's like and that I know that's exactly what he says. This is how he talks. Well, I want to get guys touches any way they can. Okay, cool. You have Rico Dowdle returning a kick. You have Chuba Hubbard returning a kick. That's great. Maybe they do break one. I just like from the offensive, the point of the offense featured through Dowdle is just, it's frustrating to watch. Again, that all said doesn't make a difference today. It's just the nature of how the Panthers take the final 9 games of the season, because once we get to the halftime of next week, we technically will be at the exact halfway point of the season. Really there now, in a way. I mean, 17 games, split it however you want to split it. Maybe you say after next week through the halfway point, but you're just not finding it. And I know Canales loves to talk this up in the pressers during the week, that he wants both backs running as hard as they can every snap, giving all their effort. And I'm like, dude, I get it. You're trying to, hype both of these guys up into feeding into what you're trying to get out of it. But somebody needs to come to you and say, look, man, pretty clear where things are right now. And I think you have to make a decision. I don't know if he's going to get there, but at least for me, if it's my offense, if I was doing this, I would feature Rico as 70, 80% until you see a decline or it's just not there. Guess what? Rico likely gone after this year, no matter what. You might as well do what you can with what you got and lay out a blueprint. Not to mention, man, you have to think about, he has ETN here. Next year, you're going to have Jonathan Brooks. How are you going to want to feature all of these guys meshed together? You love running back so much that you continue to draft one year after year after year, because that's the philosophy that you were taught there in Seattle. You need to just start to figure out how to utilize the guys together, jointly. What is a good plan? I don't know. Did not think I was going to talk that much about that, because it didn't matter today. It would not have mattered if Rico was in there. Maybe a sliver. The defense, Buffalo defense, played lights out. So I don't want that to get lost in the equation. But I do want to highlight that, like, hey, this is not good. The thing that really stood out, and I know we were all listening to this live as we were going through it today. We'll get into the chat towards the end here, making this a shorter-ish episode. In going into the half, the production, and trying to get it here. Yep. Cook with 153 yards on the ground. 153 yards on 12 carries. He was averaging 12.8 yards per carry. Had the one touchdown. We know Josh Allen got his touchdown as well. I mean, in general, when you think about the passing attack, besides them, Shakir, for them being able to find Kincaid a few times, Knox as well, they did okay. Not great, but did okay against Josh Allen. He, of course, was a little bit slippery early on. Finally got him down a few times, just didn't make a difference. But in the first half, he was only 6 of 13, had 66 yards, was sacked twice. This is really what is telling to me as we go back to this conversation on Rico. So Rico finishes, like we said, 7. I should have kept it where I was. 8 for 54. So 8 for 54. If you want to guess, and you may know, you probably already do if you're paying attention, like outside of me, paying attention to like what you've been hearing or seeing. Rico Dowdle in the first half, 7 carries, 52 yards. He was averaging 7.4 yards per carry. He had 1 carry in the second half. Now, game was out of hand. You're going to pass the ball a lot. You're going to try to make some plays. I understand that. I'm not saying to come out and feature Rico Dowdle 10 times or anything crazy, but to only get him involved with 1 rushing play in the second half doesn't sit well. Like we said, 7 to 52. Chuba Hubbard, on the other hand, 7 carries, 17 yards. Same amount of carries. He was averaging 5 more yards per carry. Rico Dowdle over Chuba Hubbard in the first half. Again, I know it does not matter. None of this affects the outcome that we saw today. The outcome was a masterclass butt whooping. That's exactly what it was. So I get it. But I'm just thinking where this team is going to go, where they're going to grow, where Dave Canales is hopefully going to grow as a coach, is just figuring this stuff out. You have to be a mature coach to have these conversations, to sit down with Chuba Hubbard if you need to and tell him, sorry, man, for the time being, it is going to be Rico Dowdle. It doesn't mean it's not your team. It doesn't mean that I still don't need you. Whatever the talk track is, you got to have that conversation and say, hey, look, we found some really good things with Rico while he was here and in the lineup. Now it's time. It's time for us to feature him for a little bit. So you're going to see your carries drop. I don't want you to think that means that, we don't want you here or anything like that. We're going to still need you at some point. You never know if he could get hurt. That's the conversation that I would have if I was Dave Canales. Man, it was one that I hope if you did miss the game, you didn't miss much. You probably did yourself a favor by not watching the game, if we're being honest. Going back at the drive summary chart, and I don't have it shared up here. I'm just going to talk through it for today. Buffalo Bills, 10 possessions. So their first possession field goal had an 11-play, 49-yard drive, 4 first downs on that. Come away with a field goal. So you get a stop. Then their second drive started off with a fumble from Andy Dalton. Ended up going 12 plays, starting on their 17, 63 yards. Convert 3 first downs and come away with another field goal. So it felt like early, as you were trying to grasp for air and stay as close as you could, that maybe things were going to turn around, or like, okay, guess what? We're going punch for punch in a way, doing our best to stay in this game. And things just absolutely fall apart. I mean, I don't know. Third quarter dominated, which I'll talk about the second quarter in a second, but third quarter was absolutely dominated by Buffalo Bills, 3 touchdowns. So 2 field goals. Then they followed that up with a touchdown, a punt, a touchdown. Of course, the second touchdown came off of the interception. I mean, that was just a really good play, but it's one where, again, you're a veteran quarterback. If you see him right in your throwing lane with where you have to go, just dirt the ball. I get on Bryce a little bit sometimes about dirting the ball as much as he does. Not some of them, but I know it's intentional at times. You're avoiding making a bad decision. So you decide, okay, let's dirt this, move on, live for another play. That didn't happen. Honestly, they probably gave him grief, the defender, for not being able to take that all the way in and score. But it was rough, man, because it did feel like, maybe there was a small bit of hope for the Panthers to be able to try and figure something out, but not the case at all. Like we said, all 3 possessions for the Buffalo Bills in the third quarter were touchdowns, and then 2 punts once we got into garbage time in the fourth quarter, and that was it. So when you look at their first 8 possessions when the game, and I don't know if I'll call it competitive, but when the game actually meant something, they punted the ball 1 time. Scored on 7 out of 8 drives, 5 out of 8 touchdowns, 2 out of those field goals, and the 1 punt was bad. Carolina possessed the ball 11 times, and I should say Buffalo's average starting field position was their 36. Carolina's was their 28. It's not a huge difference, but small. It comes out to, 8 yards total between that. So Panthers start out, get the ball, have a punt, three and out. I mean, good gosh, just not great. They followed that up with a fumble. Then they get a field goal, have a punt, interception. And then we talked about this earlier, the missed field goal. I can't believe they actually got the kickoff. I thought for sure that that was not going to be it. I feel like that's when you go back and look at Fitzgerald's stat line, you kind of put an asterisk beside that one. Come back out and punt, another fumble, finally get a touchdown. And guess what? You know what? I shouldn't say guess what. You know what? When Dave Canales talks all this talk about finishing, I get it. Like, I'm glad that that's the philosophy that he wants to preach. That's the culture that he wants to build, no matter what the scoreboard says. We're going to finish the game. There has to be a point in time where you start making smart decisions, though. There's a point in time where the game is out of reach and it does not help you. I know you're limited. You're carrying 48 players, so you don't have a full roster. You don't have 2 deep at every position, but you should. And offensive line was in trouble today. But in positions where you can plug guys in, plug them in, man. Like, let's not have every starter in there while we're getting blown out. And I even like this for an opportunity. Honestly, I would have liked it for Hendon Hooker. I'm not a big Hendon Hooker guy. Like, I'm not here to proclaim that Hendon Hooker is going to be better than Andy or is better than Andy or that he's close to Bryce or any of that. But at some point, it's like, come on, man. Like, let's just get a different look. And I get it. You've seen what you've seen. You're going to prove whatever point you're going to prove. I just don't like you're going up against partial backups at that point on the other team. So you get a moral victory. Like, you want to talk about not having moral victories, but then in essence, that is what you are getting when you're driving down the field to get your first touchdown of the game with Andy Dalton at quarterback, just to say that you did it. And, we want to finish. It's to me, I know what he's trying to do. And I'm not doubting Dave Canales as a head coach, but there are things that he does that I just say, dude, what? Why? What are we doing? Frustrating day. Anyways, getting into some of the stat lines here, and my gosh, it was quite a day for the Buffalo defense. As I get into the stat line, I'm going to switch over to my view here for a second. Cut off on me. Andy Dalton sacked 7 times. Holding on to the ball a little bit, just a little bit, but holding on, pump faking, not being able to move around. And I know the one was the bad snap, and he has to fall on it because it hits Chuba, and you get credit for that. So those still count. But either way, 7 sack day. Andy Dalton, 16 of 24, 175, 66 completion percentage. I will tell you, completion percentage a little bit better, and even had some misses, but completion percentage better than Bryce Young, averaging 7.29 yards per pass. Again, I'm not one of those that's like Andy's better than Bryce, but Bryce Young, one of his deficiencies where he is very inefficient is completing passes. He hovers around 60%. So it is positive to see 60, 67% and averaging 7.29 yards per pass. Did have the interception, so is what it is. Talked about the rushing attack. Chuba with 54. Excuse me, flip that. Rico with 54. Chuba with 34. ETN 16. Horn with 9, but one of those was kind of that pass, but it was behind the line of scrimmage, so it still counts. I think that one ended up with 7. So receiving did have some positives here. It just felt like a day for T-Mac to just pad some stats because there really wasn't anything else going on for this team. Terrell McMillan, 7 for 99. Good day for him, just one shy of 100. Jalen Coker, welcome back. I know he was back last week, but welcome back as far as being able to get a little bit of production. I think that's positive. 3 for 36. JT Sanders, 3 for 19. I like the screen to him there as they were like close to the goal line. I don't know that he's the one that has the speed to be able to take that in, but not bad. XL with a decent day as well, 2 for 17. The one that ended up being an incompletion too. I mean, I'm not one of those that's, there's some wild people out here that like to get on XL. I'm not going to be too concerned with the effort that he had on the one where he stepped out of bounds and then came back in and caught the ball. Like he was towing the line there. I'm not his wide receiver coach, so I don't know what he's being taught, and I'm not going to be one that just gets upset over the dumbest stuff because there's a lot of people that do get upset over the dumbest stuff with some of these guys. Tommy Tremble, 1 for 4. We talked about the turnovers. I mean, all of it just piling up. Christian Roseboom had 12 tackles, led the team, 7 of them solo, 2 tackles for loss, 1 pass defended. Nick Scott somehow coming in. I mean, I guess you're having to make some plays. Came away with 8 total tackles. I still, man, you just look at honestly, a short little pass. He comes up to make the tackle, gone. Shakir gone for 50 yards. Wallace, who came out with a concussion, had 7 total tackles. The sack, it was really good play, actually, in the sack when they dialed up the pressure, and he was able to, nobody was touching him. He went straight to Josh Allen, able to get him down. 1 tackle for a loss. Scorton ended up with half a sack, as well as Ashawn Robinson. Trayvon Merrick with 4. Wharton with 4 tackles. Calden Cherylus stepping in with 3. Not a big day from the secondary or anything that's going to get me excited. Not a big day for Bobby Brown or Derek Brown. I know Derek Brown shaken up and came out. Luckily, sounds like he's going to be okay. Derek Brown only finished with 1 tackle. So, they absolutely had a vision in place, a game plan of how they wanted to execute, and they came out and they did exactly that. Talked about Fitzgerald, 1 for 2, the miss right at the end of the first half. I don't think we're going to have any special teams players of the week here. Sorry, JJ Jansen, for the Carolina Panthers this week based off of that performance, but it was terrible. It really was. And it was one of those things where you look, and I was talking about this earlier as we were doing a little bit of post-game breakdown very early on. Carolina Panthers under Dave Canales, and we said this earlier in the year, it's not that they lose, it's that they get blown out. They get blown the heck out, and it's not competitive football, and that's what happens. The NFL game is built to kind of go punch for punch, or you get a stop here, you get an opportunity to go score. Now I get it, today's circumstances, considering Andy and everything else, maybe not apples to apples, but it's a game that is built that way to be able to give you the ability to go punch for punch if you need to. Go back, regroup. Okay, we'll get a stop here. We'll go drive down. We'll get a field goal. All right, we're going to chip our way back into it. And it was not that. And that's what is frustrating to me when we look at the Dave Canales era. So I was taking a look at where things sit. So number one, as of this recording, and this may change, I said, we talked about it earlier, but the Panthers are sitting at 9th in the standings in the NFC. Not bad, 9 out of 16, so almost halfway in the middle of the pack. Their point differential is minus 38, which actually puts them, if we can get there, with the third worst point differential out of any team, which is 13th in the NFC. It's not good, man. It's when they lose by a lot and they get blown out. That's really been the theme of their losses this season, outside of you look at Arizona, which counts as a close game, but in reality, up until the miracle comeback that fell short, it was a blowout. It's been the norm. Panthers for this week didn't matter who's at quarterback, but just finding new ways to hurt themselves. So you know what? They bury the hole, and you're never going to be successful. That's what frustrates me. I'll take a loss. I'll take a 10-point loss, 7-point. It's the nature of being in the game. Like, just know what that feels like, because we haven't had a lot of that. It's been so bad. I was going to go in and look through some of or to see if there were any additional insights coming out of this. Yeah, I knew there had to be, just based off of James Cook's performance. He's pretty much lighting this whole thing on fire. So I'll read through some of his stats here, or next gen stats insights, in just a minute. But getting back on track here, let's go through Buffalo. Josh Allen, 12 of 19, 163 yards, 1 touchdown, sacked twice, a 108 passer rating. Trubisky got in 2 for 4. Cook, 216 yards on the ground. I did hear and I'm not a Bills fan, so on the Panthers radio broadcast, that's the most yards by a Bills running back since O.J. Simpson. Quite the performance, really was. Shakira led the way with 88 yards, the 1 touchdown. Keon Coleman with 30 yards. Kincaid with 23. Halls 15. Knox 15. And Moore with 14. Talked about the fumbles, the interception. Defensively, Williams with 6 total tackles. I mean, the sack production was just everywhere. I'm not even going to go through all their stat lines. They completely dominated. I will look at, before I get into the final piece around the insights from Next Gen Stats, taking a look at overall box score. 23 first downs for the Bills to 19 for the Panthers. 12 of those came on the ground for Buffalo. On third down, they were 7 of 12, 58%. Carolina was 4 for 11, 36%. 410 total yards to 244 yards. Has to be close. I don't have the game logs in front of me, but close to one of the worst offensive days for the Panthers this season. 60 plays to 59, so pretty even. They had 6.8 yards per play compared to 4.1. 245 yards on the ground to our 114 once you balanced everything out. 165 to 130 passing. Yeah. And let's take a look at penalties here. Wow. 7-4. I was looking at the wrong stat line. I was looking at fumbles. Penalties, 7 for 60 for Buffalo, 4 for 20. Red zone efficiency, they were 2 for 3. We were 1 for 2. What a day. Time of possession favored Buffalo 33 minutes to 26 minutes for the Carolina Panthers. Let's go in and I'll talk through the next gen stats. So Michael, and I cannot pronounce his name. It was his season debut, but Michael Holt, should know, generated 5 pressures and 1.5 sacks on 21 pass rushes, 23.8%. Most pressures in a game since week 16. He generated 3 quick pressures, which is under 2.5 seconds, the most by any Bills defender in a game this season, including the third quarter. where he got off the line of scrimmage in 0.33 seconds, the fastest by any player this season, recorded the sack in 3.33 seconds. Ridiculous. I'd love for us to be able to do that. A lot of James Cook, but James Cook rushed for 19 times, 216 yards, 2 touchdowns, generating 121 yards rushing over expected. That's the 4th most in any game since 2018. He gained 141 of his rushing yards before contact. That's what I'm telling you. Like I said, he was very successful and wouldn't have this in front of me, but guess what? They do it for us. 141 yards of rushing before contact, before anyone is laying a hand on this man. It's like just you going out and running. Defense on the field if we're going to be that bad. The most by any player this season, 3rd most since 2018. He generated most of his production outside the tackles, where he had 15 for 189 and both of his touchdowns. Surpassed his previous career high on rushes outside. I mean, night and day, where he originally had 72. He forced 6 missed tackles, most in a game since week 8 for him, and gained 41 yards off those missed tackles. I mean, ridiculous. Khalil Shakir caught 6 of his 7 targets for 88 yards, with 71 of his yards coming after contact. I mean, you make contact, poor tackling, you can't bring him down. Story of the day. 2nd highest mark for a receiver in a game this season. Wow. He forced 4 missed tackles, tied for the most by a receiver. I mean, this is just where the Panthers are. On the season, he has forced 14 missed tackles and gained 189 yards after contact, both of which lead all wide receivers. So he's good. Not going to downplay the fact that he's a really good, elusive wide receiver, and the Panthers are terrible at covering those type of guys. So here we go. Last one. James Cook finished with 216 yards, 2 touchdowns, 19 carries against the Panthers. He's only the 4th player in NFL history with 215 plus rushing yards and 2 plus rushing touchdowns on fewer than 20 carries, joining Hall of Famer Bobby Mitchell, Bo Jackson, and Derrick Henry. And like we said, the most rushing yards by a Bills player since O.J. Simpson, Week 12, 1976, where he put up 273 yards on the ground. So it's fun, right? It's exactly where we all want to be. Not really, but we get through it. And it's one of those where, yes, you do need to watch the film. Not me. But you do need to watch the film to go back over the madness that we saw. You have a team that has shown that they know how to win, that's beat some bad football teams. But now they got to go on the road. And we know about the struggles on the road, where this team has been. But it's going to be a good opportunity to go up to Lambeau. And I'm not here. Let's see if there's even, as we record this right now, any numbers around opening lines. They may not have any lines yet, but most of the time they've got one teased out. Yes, I'm going to guess. Wow. Green Bay, 11.5 point favorites. I'm going to guess that may be, so the only larger spread that's opened up, there's still a few more that haven't opened as of now on ESPN, but 13.5 between the Saints and the Rams, of course, in favor of the Rams. So the second biggest spread tells you everything you need to know about how the outside views the Panthers. Right there. 11.5 points. It is a 1:00 kickoff. We know that Green Bay is beatable, but man, Panther season could take a nice turn. Like you've got through this pocket. This game sucked. You got to really put it behind you and just reevaluate with Bryce Young getting in there, and then turn your attention to the Packers and hope that you can possibly knock them off a little early. I don't know that I'm going to lean towards the Panthers this week, but if they can do it, that'd be great. Then you've got the Saints. Again, Saints playing semi-competitive football, but from there, it's only going to get harder. I know we break this down every week, but at Green Bay, then home against the Saints, at the Falcons, at San Francisco 49ers, home against the Rams, and then you get a nice bye week, much deserved, and then you got 4 games to close it out. So at New Orleans, 2 games against Tampa, mixed with the Seahawks in between there to close it out. Curious to see as we go through this season, where exactly are the Panthers going to finish? I know for me, I wanted to see them around that 8 or 9 win mark. I still look if, like we said, no gimmies, no guarantees. But if you get 2 against the Saints, that gets you to 6 wins. If you get 1 against the Falcons, that'd be 7. Maybe you get 1 outside of that, 1 or 2, that puts you close to 8 to 9 wins. But based off of what we saw today, I don't know that I'm ready to declare any other wins right now. Again, have to also understand that Bryce Young wasn't in there. So that's a big reason why we were there. All right, folks. I appreciate y'all, as always. Let's jump in here, see what we got going on. Late night. I'll check up on the comments as we close out the episode. So Michael says, I'm shocked that Andy couldn't perform. We need a quarterback that can elevate the team, a backup quarterback. I agree. I was shocked. I did think maybe I was just mentally hyping myself up, but man, it feels like he's kind of gone. He's kind of just washed away a little bit, and I don't understand the investment outside of the knowledge, whatever it is. If that's what you're going to get out of your backup, you could get that out of a rookie. You could get out of a second year, out of someone who's younger. You're going to have to call on your backups. Just the nature of the NFL. At some point, a backup is going to have to step in for whatever reason, even if it's a drive, a play. Andy Dalton just missing it. Would be curious what the Panthers decide to do from there. Mr. Phil 81 says, it's Buffalo. I expected our run game would do better, but their D-line showed up. Yes, they did. And I will be one to say that I talked about how bad they were against the run. We thought that's where we were going to tune in, or things were going to be. But credit to Sean McDermott being able to dial things up, do what they needed to do, game plan effectively to shut this down. Mr. Phil said, I remember the days our number one strength was position depth. Yeah, it's diminished. You look at the state of the Panthers offensive line, losing guys left and right. It's a tough spot. We already know about the linebacker position. I mean, it's not great where the Carolina Panthers sit right now. Jonathan Silva, what's good? Appreciate y'all tuning in as always. Mr. Phil says we need to go back. we're in the 3-4, so I'm thinking you're saying we should go back to a 4-3. I know a lot of people want to do that. Feels like a push that a lot of people would like to get there. When Cam and Luke left, our heart left. We need those type of players. Yeah, it feels like things were kind of building up there over these last few weeks, but unfortunately, it's just like, what? Karen said, do you think Andy Dalton threw this game, considering the close ties he has with the Bills? I know they kind of made that a little, not him throwing the game, but talked about him helping the Bills get to the playoffs for the first time. What was that, in 2018 when they showed that clip and all the things, that went as I don't. That was, even if you tried to throw the game, yes, technically, if you were just like handing the ball to the other team, pretty obvious. It was a good performance. And at least from my standpoint, until we hear something coming out of the NFL that there's things like that happening with players and coaches or whoever buying into throwing games, I just think that was a really good performance, in my opinion, by the Buffalo team this week. Yeah, this really should be, I agree with you on that. This should be Andy's last season. And It's a backup quarterback, so it's not that big of a storyline, but as we have seen, and I mean, here's the thing. Yes, I think Bryce has progressed. We'll find out. It's really going to depend on what does he look like on Wednesday once we get that official injury report. What is his participation? But it would be a nightmare in my mind right now for Andy to have to go next week. I just don't see any reason I would take. And I know Hendon Hooker's probably not much better, but I would almost take him or even White at this point. And Virgil said it's hard to lean on the run game when the quarterback can't help but turn it over. It is. You bury yourself into those holes early. It is very difficult to get out of it. It's hard to dial up some of the runs or any run when you're trailing as much as you are. And you naturally, yes, every now and then maybe you hit a home run with a run, but you got to force yourself into taking some shots downfield through the passing game. And that just feels like the only way to really be able to have a chance to get back in that. Karen said it feels like the Bills had a cheat code to the Panthers playbook. I don't know what they I mean, I will I know Shaq Thompson was here. I'm not saying they had a cheat code or anything. I'm not, anything like that. And hard to know exactly, how much information Shaq could share, but they did have a bye week. So there's definitely, and I'm not talking about, because they killed us off offensively. So Shaq necessarily wouldn't have known our offense that well because he's on the defensive side of the ball. Either way, and then I'm not saying that's what happened. They were prepared. That was a very well-coached team that had studied, that had taken the time and really figured out, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to execute, and we're going to shut them down, and they have the opportunity to do it. And Mafia Cow said, Rico had 9 carries. Instead of playing our hot player, we make our decrepit backup quarterback throw and have Chuba run more and make less yards than Rico. Yeah. It's bad. I'm with you on that one. FBI needs to investigate. That's the new thing now. I'm all for it. Let's call him in there. That's a long name, so I'm gonna Ramses Bautista. Hopefully, you say that one right. Says that the Panthers are just a bad football team. And you know what? I'm not gonna disagree with you there, because the Panthers have beaten bad football teams, and you have a performance like that and you continue to get blown out. Yeah. I'm not here to declare that they're a good team or a great team by any stretch. Like, they've got to win they've got to beat some good teams for folks to really start taking them seriously. I think, yes, they're showing progress, but still a ways to go there for sure. And then Panther Gal said, if Andy plays next week, we are done. Yeah, we are. I don't care what kind of prep that you can do. And she also said, Andy hasn't done crap for this team since he's been here, except that one. Right? We hyped him up, got the Vegas one. That was it. And then Justin says, Canales needs to give Rico more carries. I'm all for that too. No doubt about it. And good point. We're still in second place. It's not the end of the world. Second place within the NFC. I do think Tampa Bay is going to take it, but at least Carolina is like right there, and they're 9th in the NFC, so only 2 back from the playoffs. A lot of football to go. Just want to continue to see some progress and hope that today was just not real. That the Bills just played lights out football, and maybe they are going to turn into the Buffalo Bills that we thought they would be. Why keep giving Chuba chances? This is from G-Dub. When Rico is clearly better this season, make Chuba a third down back and stop doing every other drive. Yeah, you really do need to figure out a better rotation. I agree with that. And to your point, whether it's featuring Rico on first and second or giving Rico 2 drives, then changing things out. I do think you have to figure out a better way to get Rico for now. And then Loud Pack said, I still believe, I hope Bryce can get me too. I think there's a good chance. I think based off of what we saw today, and this is not knowing anything about Bryce Young's health, but I think it's more of a hey, Canales, and they've got to go through all the protocols. They're not going to rush him back to get him hurt. But if he's 80%, 85, 90%. If he can move around, do what he's got to do, tape that thing up. I mean, I'm not saying that's where they're going to be, but it makes you feel like, okay, yeah, we saw what that was. We don't want to repeat that. We got to have Bryce Young out there all day. Yeah, and take that as a positive. Panther Dell said at least they don't have to stress out over being undefeated at home, right? Take that. And they've won on the road. So we do have that, so you kind of work through some of the stuff. The streak's over. Back to business for the Panthers. No doubt we need Bryce Young, but cool, man. Well, I appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, we'll be back this week previewing the Packers and doing everything else that we do during the week. As always, folks, Carolina Dad, hope you guys have a good one and enjoy.